Okay, talking to Andy Cobb at Netroots Nation. Hello, Andy.
Hi.
With Second City, Andy's done a bunch of the political videos we've seen over the years. I thought I would ask Andy about Tracy Morgan, about the recent blow-up we had with him making some anti-gay comments during one of his comedy routines and getting a lot of trouble for it. I don't know. I mean, Andy, let's just start in. I'm trying to figure out, like, from a comedian's perspective. We were talking about Lisa Lampanelli, for example, who I didn't know until I Googled her. She does a lot of what one would consider offensive stuff. Racist, sexist, anti-Latino, anti-black, everything, anti-gay. She gets a lot of laughs. Is this any different from some of the stuff that Tracy Morgan was accused of?
I after it originally happened, I wrote, just because a comic says something doesn't make it comedy. And I think that's true. It seemed a lot like just a hateful rant to me. And what distinguished that from an actual comedy routine was an absence of punchlines. In that there's a lot of craft that goes into making even a punchline that's supposed to be sort of to seem off the cuff, to actually land takes a lot of craft, and there wasn't any of that craft behind it. It seemed like a hateful tirade. But beyond that, I think that in a successful sort of edgy joke, or a joke that kind of treads a line on sexist or racist or homophobic or graphic material, that there's a certain ironic distance that's present between the performer and the material, and that a certain. Raise my hands.
No, I'm not your voice. I'm like giving him motions to speak up, and he's raising his hands. You're so funny.
I think there's an ironic distance that exists between a performer doing that material and the material itself, and I think that the technique that a comic usually uses to do that is to make fun of yourself first. So Lisa Lampanelli leads with "I am a fat slut." That's her whole gag.
And she did make a lot of jokes about sleeping around and stuff. I noticed.
She will say that she's a fat slut, and she's hilarious. But she starts it out by making herself the butt of the joke. Right. So she's making about somebody else. And I think that's the tool that the performer uses when they're really being sensitive to material.
So that it looks like what? Oh, we're kind of all poking fun at all of ourselves versus. This skit is about making fun of blacks.
Yeah, and I think there is a place in...
Because her stuff, I finally watched her stuff for the first time last week, and it's strong.
It's real strong. It's real funny, too, right?
It was funny, and I almost felt bad laughing at it but I watched it. She went after everybody. Even the gay jokes I thought were funny, but I also could imagine them in a different setting and a different person being bad. And frankly, I could imagine them being transcribed and being hideous.
Oh yeah. And I think you wind up in situations.
But is it acceptable? I guess what I'm saying is why are her joke? Why do they work? People may laugh, but people laughed at racist jokes when I was a kid too.
Sure.
Why are her jokes okay?
Well, I think it has something. I think ultimately comedy is about sort of truth telling, and we're trying to get at what the truth that we all believe in the room at the same time.
Okay.
And if we all sort of taking as a supposition, we're not racist, but we know there are issues of race in our country. That as a performer, by taking care of the craft of the project, by making fun of yourself first, by creating this sort of sense of ironic distance, I think then the room realizes that Lisa Lampanelli doesn't really think Mexicans are lazy.
Okay.
And she probably doesn't think that she's a fat slut either. She probably is trying to make us laugh and trying to make us comfortable. When that doesn't exist, we all know it. And it doesn't make it not okay. I think, Louis C.K. had an interesting thing that he said. He said, it's offensive and horrible and mean-spirited and wrong, but he's also a comic and not in a pulpit. So maybe if we as a society are going to have people say these horrible things, they might as well take place on a comedy stage where we can have this thorough discussion about it afterwards and maybe come to a better understanding. So, in a way, maybe Tracy did us a favor, and it's good to know that he is also, in a sober moment or a moment of clarity or a moment of lucidity, said that he doesn't really feel that way, and that he's not the bastard that he made himself out to be that day. So I think comics maybe should get a little bit more allowance. I'll still watch him on 30 Rock and think he's funny now that he's made me believe that he's not Hitler. But I think that
maybe Vic Hitler.
Sure, he's good. He's very good, ladies and gentlemen. But I think that ultimately that's sort of the role of the comic, and so people are going to keep crossing these lines. But it's better that they do it rather than a congressman, rather than a school teacher.
And that was one of the arguments that was used. But he's a comic, give him more leeway. And the thing is, first, comics I think are working in more dangerous territory because maybe they do go there. We'd have to see the transcript, or we'd have to actually see the video of what he actually said, or the audio. But I'm just intrigued by this aspect of looking at some of the other racist, or not even just racist, but again, homophobic jokes that I did find funny. And it's... And I didn't necessarily feel like she was walking away with a great lesson from Lisa Lampanelli watching the YouTube videos. But at the same time, there was something lighthearted about it that it didn't seem... You know what? It didn't seem sincere is what I mean. That's the thing. I think, even again, the Latino guy laughed, the black guy laughed, and the gay guys laughed because they knew she didn't mean it. It was obvious she didn't mean it. I don't know how, but she telegraphed that, like you were saying.
And
that was my sense.
And it is. I think it's a very fine line, and I think it's gray and indistinguishable and hard to suss out. But that doesn't make it less important. And I think that there is a real difference between what Tracy Morgan did and what Lisa Lampanelli does, and what Tracy Morgan usually does and what he did that night. And I guess I do want to make certain allowances for a performer to have a psychotic or shitty or drunken or bad night, because comics live in a different world and performers operate differently than politicians and should. But I think we can also say, as gray as that line and as weird as that line is and indistinguishable as it is,
right, and
that
your kid might be crossing it.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, but it is true though. It's not even.
We can't say that's not funny, dude.
Right.
We have that right.
Not even a Well, and I guess also the expectation is that as a comic and as a professional comic, it's weird that you don't. It's hard to define the line, but you also know when you've crossed it.
Yeah.
And then I take a knife and stab my kid. Okay,
Or Kramer.
Michael. I want to say Richards.
Michael Richards. Yeah. When he went off in that L.A. club.
Yeah.
And watching that, I kind of thought, I wonder if this is just a bit that's gone horribly awry. I wonder if this is a performer that hasn't...
In other words, he had prepared this sort of a routine to go off at some point, or what?
Well, that he was trying to do sort of an edgy racial bit.
Right.
And, that this was going to be really funny that Kramer was saying this horrible thing in front of an audience. And then, as a performer, I was wondering, is this just a bit that's going horribly awry?
Right.
Because sometimes bits do, and sometimes you don't get the intention across that you want to get across. Usually the result is just that people don't laugh, but if you're doing that sort of edgy material, the results can be more draconian.
Right.
So I don't know. I guess ultimately I feel like we should have the right to say, dude, not funny, and to have a conversation about it. But I think within that, there should be a little... a part of your mind that says, at least it's a comic, and at least we can have this discussion, and at least the repercussions are cultural rather than political or economic or real repercussions in the moment that I want to withdraw that.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, because...
I think
because I can hear my reader sitting here going, why aren't you jumping in and telling him? Because he's actually telling people in the audience that it's okay to hate your kids. And I mean, so it's... but the argument would be, he's a star. People look up to stars. Same way they look up to politicians. I mean, he's a TV star. And if he's... It depends. If they think he's joking, it's one thing. If they think he's... Again, when I was a kid, hearing racist jokes, they were told by people who thought blacks were this way. They weren't told by people who love blacks as our brothers and were just telling funny jokes. That's not what it was about.
Although, and you may have had this, I'm from Indiana, and like a lot of my friends would tell these sort of horrible racist jokes as a child, and then, a black friend would walk up and everybody shuts up. A black friend that we love just the same. They might,
but they will also say a lot of other nasty things about blacks that aren't even jokes.
True.
No, that's what I'm saying. So I think, I don't know, I've always felt like that fits into a larger category of the motivation isn't really pure.
No, I think
and again, we'd have to hear his video, but I think that was the concern. Well, obviously, it was the concern, but also there is a concern that as a star, if your message is coming across as being hate and not educating with an Archie Bunker twist at the end, where we go, oh yeah, he's a bigot and bigots are wrong, but rather than, no, this is somebody who hates fags and let's make fun of them.
Yeah.
And that's
I hear you. And the other thing that I don't like about what I just said is...
coming up we got 50 seconds to YouTube's 10-minute limit, so be good.
Be
funny, Andy.
The other thing is that I think comedy and satire and these cultural forces can be important. So I don't want to minimize their importance. Yeah. But I guess we have the luxury with that of having a learning lesson afterwards, and making them something that we can have takeaways from, rather than just a shitty experience that someone passes in the form of legislation that we have to live with.
Okay, cool. Thanks, you.